Drawing your bow back like this, or some way similar to it, is one surefire way to get a shoulder injury. For those of you that are new here, my name is Jake Kaminsky. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery. I'm working to make this channel a great resource to all types of archery. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. I'd appreciate it. So I've done a bunch of video coaching reviews lately, and I'm noticing a pattern or a trend. And a lot of people are drawing their bow back in a manner that will absolutely give them a drawing shoulder injury. So the types of injury that are very common in this shoulder, the side that pulls the bow back, is something that is called impingement. Impingement, in a nutshell, is the closing of something that is called the subacromial space in your shoulder. And what runs through the subacromial space, which is about the size of a pencil, it's very, very small. The opening is only about the size of a pencil in its ideal position. And what runs through there are a lot of things. Both the ulnar and thoracic nerve, tendons run through there, including the long head of the bicep, as well as some shoulder stability muscles as well, some rotator cuff muscles. And what happens during impingement is essentially when you put your body in a certain position, it takes that subacromial space and closes it to zero, and it pushes down on the nerves, it pushes down on those tendons and vessels, and you get a lot of discomfort in this drawing hand as well as the shoulder itself. And I absolutely would never, ever, ever recommend anyone lift their hand up like this, where their elbow is as high as the top of their head, or their hand is as high as the top of their head. You see many people drawing the bow back in a manner that is similar to that. I'm going to use a stretch band because my ceiling clearance isn't quite high enough to do this comfortably while not hitting my bow on the ceiling. And essentially what I see happening is many people will start their shot cycle like this, in this position with a very high shoulder and very far forward, even like this, and then they pull the bow back, or they do this. So the reason that this position will give you something called shoulder impingement is very, very simple. When you take your shoulders, and when you're not in the proper position, and you have your shoulders rolled forward like this, your subacromial space closes. So if I'm in this position when I lift my bow and I'm very far forward, I'm essentially rolling my shoulder in like this. So if I lift my bow to brace height, I'm already pinching off all of the important things in the shoulder. Now, when you add to that lifting your arm higher than neutral, higher than this position, it also closes the subacromial space as well. So not only are we far forward and it's closed, but now we're elevated like this with our shoulder, and that subacromial space is just crushing down on all the important things that run through that space in this shoulder. And it is absolutely going to cause some sort of injury in the future. Many of the people that I see doing this type of draw are relatively new to the sport, within a couple years, or they are young archers. So again, yes, they are new to the sport, but it's just absolutely going to cause issues down the road. So if you see anyone, or if you do this type of draw, stop immediately, please. Otherwise, it is absolutely a recipe for disaster. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of different ways that you can avoid shoulder impingement issues. First off would be not archery related at all. Have proper posture. Walk around with proper posture. If you're using your computer, set your screen up at eye level. Make sure your elbows and everything are at 90-degree angles, and so you're sitting with proper posture. When you're on your phone, don't slouch. Don't do things like this. That is going to cause issues in the shoulder as well. But then on top of that, when we lift our bows, the number one cause of this type of positioning that I'm showing you is following brace height up to what is called set up position in this type of position. So most people, without knowledge of the shoulders and how to properly pull the bow back and basic mechanics in archery, is as they lift the bow, before they pull it back, they follow brace height up in here, and then they pull back. So you can see from here, my shoulder is open in an okay position, but as I lift, if I follow brace height up, look what I'm doing with my arm. It's very far forward. So if you look in reference to the tip of this elbow, to this shoulder, this angle is less than 90 degrees when I follow my brace height up when I lift the bow. You can see that the upper arm and the shoulders make a less than 90 degree angle. a minimum angle that you need is 90 degrees. So right here. So as you can see, I am no longer at brace height. And as I lift the bow, my elbow, my upper arm to my shoulder angle is 90 degrees. That is an absolute minimum to be at when you lift your bow up before you pull back. That'll help keep that subacromial space open, help prevent impingement. Now, another reason, another way to prevent that is to just simply don't lift your arm any higher than your lips, your chin, or your nose. So do not go above this level. If you go any higher than that, you're closing that space off and asking for an injury. So old school method, old, like really traditional style with like war bows, they would lift their bows up very, very high like this, and then use gravity essentially to pull the bows back, and at least kind of pull the bows back with gravity. They're still using their body to pull the bow back, of course, but that is an old method, and we are no longer shooting bows with that much weight. We don't need to. You know, typical Olympic recurve setup or bare bow setup, you're not really going to see many people, at least many adult men, shooting over 48 pounds. There are some anomalies, but even the limit is at 60 pounds and you can't shoot more than that, and nobody in their right mind would ever really shoot close to that. So there's really no issue in pulling back the bows with the current poundage that we use on average. So simply just making sure that this is a 90 degrees or more and you don't lift higher than level. So I dealt with a lot of shoulder impingement issues. I dealt with a lot of tendonitis, a lot of bursitis, a lot of pain in my draw shoulder as well as my bow shoulder, but mostly my draw shoulder. And, you know, there was a lot of factors involved. A lot of these things that I am recommending you to not do, I was doing, and that caused a lot of injuries and a lot of issues. So the way that I simply make sure that I don't have any shoulder issues is this wrist comes to roughly the place somewhere in front of my chin. So I am no higher than my chin, and I am no further forward than my chin in the set up position. So if I go from here to here, as I lift the bow, I am right here. You can see where my wrist and my chin are pretty much in line, and then my elbow is back further than 90 degrees and lower than level. This really helps prevent any sort of shoulder injuries and aggravating things that I've done in the past. And honestly, just going through these a couple times and going through that motion a couple times, my shoulder's already starting to get a bit inflamed, and I can feel inflammation growing inside of my shoulder because it really doesn't like going in that position. So if you do that, if you are in this position at all before you pull the bow back, please don't do that anymore. I really don't want to see you get injured, and I don't want to see you have to take time off due to that injury. The type of injury that occurs from that basically just requires strict rest to allow the inflammation to go down. And then, of course, you have to change your form once you get back to it. So if you're interested in learning more about technique and how to shoot archery properly, or how I shot archery using Coach Lee's method, the best method, the NTS, the KSL shot cycle, I have an entire form series that I will link in the description below. Plus, I'll put a card at the top here talking specifically about the shoulder positioning that I was just referencing, where I go into much more detail on how to go from set position to setup position and all the way through the shot cycle. Also, another great reference for any sort of form related to archery, Olympic style or bare bow style archery is this here. It's Inside the Archer by my coach Keesak Lee, as well as an old teammate of mine, Tyler Benner. It has everything on how to hook your fingers on the string, how to put your hand in the bow, the alignment you should be in, how follow through feels, mental things as well. All of it is included in this book. It's a great additional resource in addition to my form series. So if you haven't picked up a copy of this yet, I would highly recommend it. There'll be links in the description below on where you can pick those up. They're both available on my website, as well as I'll put an Amazon affiliate link down there as well, in case you would rather pick it up on Amazon. So this is a great reference and a great resource for you to check on as well. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider hitting the subscription button and the notification bell, as well as the like button. I would appreciate it. Also, please consider supporting my channel. If you head to my website, jakekaminsky.com, there'll be info and links on Patreon, apparel, books, and equipment sales, PayPal donate button, a P.O. box to send things to, and above all else, please share this video because there's no better advertising than word of mouth.